The two mowers I bought for the Trac PT425 are the 4-foot finish mower and then also the 4-foot brush hog. Both similar in some ways, but then very different too. The finish mower is hydraulically driven through the PTO. The hydraulic hoses that connect to the plate to the machine are disconnected and then reconnected to the central drive motor, which has a belt underneath it that drives the 3 finished blades. It's a little bit narrower and a little bit shorter than the brush hog, so it can get into tighter places and does a very nice job of trimming. It actually is a little bit higher than the brush hog if you put it on its highest setting. The brush hog has the typical bush hog, if you will, blades underneath that are on pivots. 2 big blades that will vary the spinning speed depending on what kind of brush they're in. If you hit something, it'll kind of bounce off of it, but it'll cut some pretty tall stuff. But it does protrude out from the machine a little bit further than the finish mower, and it's slightly wider, so it's not as good for getting into the tight places I use this for, around the pond in particular, but it does a great job. I'll post some videos after this of going through some pretty tall brush, nasty weeds, and a thicket of thorns as well, and briars. In researching vehicles and equipment that I could use around the pond, I really wanted a mower that mounted on the front of a machine, and there's several other products that do this. Trac in particular, good for hills. Husqvarna has a couple models of articulating mowers. Right now they've discontinued them temporarily for some reason, and also John Deere, Kubota have their versions of the front mounted mowers, but they're a mower for groundskeeping, for golf courses, for wide open areas, and that's all they do. They just mow. You can't do anything else with the machines. This particular machine you can put different attachments on, which I really like. The clamshell bucket that I've showed in another video, which has done a lot of work getting into tight places where usually you're pushing around the material with a bucket trying to pick it up. The clamshell, you can open it up over the material, drop it down, clamp onto it, pick it up and move it. The forks have done a great job moving some of the heavier stumps and logs and some rocks I've come across. And I haven't used a mini backhoe yet, but I do have a purpose for that coming up in a future video. This is the first day I used the 4-foot brush mower. I was a little bit skeptical about it. It's a 25 horsepower machine and 1,400 pounds, so it's pretty heavy. But you can set the speed of the blades with the throttle, and using the hydrostatic drive, work your way into the heavier material. I would cut 1 or 2 feet at a time, depending how thick it was, and the articulating steering was very helpful. Having the mower in the front was extremely helpful because you can see what you're cutting, and you put the basically mower in the float position. It's just like you would with a bucket. If you hit something or need to raise it, just raise up the front boom and get away from it. But I had a lot of good luck cutting with this. I did the marshy area around the pond and brought it out into the open field, which is usually cut for hay, but I wanted to see how it would do out there, and did quite well. You wouldn't want to use it for a bigger area. It would take a long time, but for tight areas, it's much easier than backing in with a 6-foot bush hog and having to turn around and see what you're cutting. This makes it so much easier to see exactly what you're getting into, and if you hit a stump or get towards a rock, just raise up the boom if you need to and back out and see what you're up against.